Howdy. Sometimes LEGO likes to push their sets to the very limits of what can be considered child-friendly, often capturing that true sense of horror. Modern LEGO sets don't always capture that fear like they used to. They're often more about being funny rather than scary. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I do like myself a bit of LEGO horror. I've tried to find sets that aren't just Halloween themed, but legitimately uncomfortable when you look at them. The kind that give you that drop in your guts when you see them and you're like, ugh. So let's talk about the 10 scariest LEGO sets. And thanks to Brickset's website for all the information, and HelloFresh for sponsoring the video. Later on, I'll talk a bit about my pleasant experience with them. Anyway, let's begin. For number 10 we have LEGO Stranger Things, the Upside Down World. To be honest, I'm very surprised that LEGO Stranger Things even exists. In most countries, Stranger Things on Netflix is a science fiction horror. In most places, it's MA15+, for violence, gore, and horror themes. Except for Japan, of course, who considers it PG-12. I mean, it doesn't surprise me that much. I'm sure they just went, that's it? Where's the tentacles? The set is described by LEGO as escape the upside down world and avoid the Demogorgon. And props to LEGO for recreating the almost too gruesome to show monster as a LEGO figure. Twice actually. Apparently it was a real hit because they even made a Demogorgon keyring. Sure, why not? Turn the set over and we get the upside down version of the house too. And I think the upside down world is captured well here, in all its ravaged grisliness. Even the set's trailer captures that sense of unease to the Stranger Things world.
Get the upside down version of the house. Well, I'm not sure what happened there, but...
Let's see what reviewers think of it. Mr. Banana Head said,
extremely nice display piece. Most minifigures in the set do the actors justice, but the face piece does not quite capture the horror of the Demogorgon.
And I can agree with that. We can see from custom sellers that they capture the horror of the Demogorgon a bit better, but maybe this is as scary a minifigure as LEGO could get away with. Or is it? Oh, and my friend Just Too Good reviewed this set too. Although he found the regular set a bit bland, he really liked the upside down world. He said it had a creepy visual flair, and I'd agree with this. My favorite part had to be the jet black withered gruesome trees. But overall, I think this set does capture that sense of horror and unease that the original show did. And for number 9 we have the Monster Fighters Ghost Train. This little beauty was released back in 2012. It was part of the well-known LEGO Monster Fighters set. And the Monster Fighters set really had some of the coolest looking monsters, like this mummy set, where we got this giant machete-wielding cadaver wrapped in bandages. They even managed to make the horse and the carriage horrific. But anyway, given the thumbnail, you're probably more curious of this ghastly beast of a train.
Spooky!
And I don't blame you, it looks beautifully scary. This has to be one of the most visually unique flares I've ever seen in a LEGO set. So much about this train screams supernatural horror. Yeah, there's a plane in the set, but we all know what really caught people's attention was a giant skeleton-faced ghost train. I like so many of the details of this train, like its jet black color and the way it appears to be built out of human bones. There's a real sense of madness and macabre to this thing. I can't think of many other occasions I've seen LEGO build a train out of bone. Even the carriages seem bony. As Brick Queen shows us here, the handles are bone, the bumper is bone, you're even sitting on bone when you step in.
I think they put a lot of detail into it, putting the bones all over it.
You can also hear the clanking of bones as the train goes along. You can even lock a poor hapless hero in the bone jail carriage to be dragged away. Ah, awesome. But about these ghosts, honestly, I really want to like these ghosts. But every time I look at their hooded heads, they just feel slightly problematic to me. Maybe I'm overthinking this, but to me they look too similar to some other white hooded figures. And it's just hard for me to put it out of my mind when I see them. But if no one else noticed this similarity, I'm glad. But anyway, let's check what reviewers had to say. Did they like it? Let's see what Sandman said.
This is a great set. Despite many people complaining it's incompatible with LEGO train tracks. The bat wings flap when the train moves and imitate the sound of bones clanking.
I really love that extra detail of bones clanking too. Lynch said,
this set is a horror-themed marvel. I like the horror the tank engine face.
Horror the Tank Engine. Yeah, I think that sums his train up pretty well. And coming in at number 8, Lego Venom. Aha! Now this is the kind of monstrosity we're looking for. Obviously, this guy's based on the Marvel character of the same name, Venom. He's an alien organism thing who feeds off adrenaline and gives spider-like powers to the owner. And Lego has really nailed the creep factor on this guy. It looks unnerving enough that it almost doesn't feel like Lego when I look at it. The eyes and mouth really stand out here. The original Venom had such a unique look that they managed to make 2 subpar movies about him and still sell tickets.
We are Venom.
And I think that's partially because Venom has such an eye-catching, terrifying look. And somehow, Lego's captured that look, even in Lego form. But I think what stands out the most is Venom's outstretched tongue. The way it twists and lolls to the side feels slightly otherworldly and uncanny. Kinda reminds me of a snake ready to attack. Or is that a dingo? Even the mouth's uneven, dagger-like teeth feel like they could legitimately cut something to ribbons. They are just ferocious, and I love it. As much as the head is beautifully created, some builders have had an understandable complaint with it. According to Ashen Flash, some have complained that Venom is a complete reskin of Carnage.
I've seen a lot of people complaining that this just looks just like Carnage. It's a complete reskin, recoloring of that one.
And yeah, I think this Venom set is almost identical in build to Carnage. And comparing the two, they certainly do feel like a repaint. But they do have small differences such as Venom's saliva. But what do reviewers think? Skythief says,
This was a lot of fun to build. I like the teeth, slightly different eyes, and the iconic green drool. This is great to display on my comic book shelf.
Great says,
So much fun putting together. Really looks like Venom. I think that's what I like most about it.
and I think whether it actually captures Venom or not really does matter. Overall, the whole head is just a ferociously authentic recreation of the original Venom. And at number 7 we have Lego Hidden Side, Newbury Haunted High School. It's Lego augmented reality again, this time in horror theme. Lego started pushing these AR sets back in 2020. On top of getting a novel, spooky set, you could combine this set with Lego's augmented reality app. Once you've built the set, it comes alive through the app, or comes undead. There's a lot of ghosts in this thing. But sadly, Lego still doesn't seem to have had much success with these Lego augmented reality sets, as the set was fairly recently discontinued in 2023. I honestly want Lego augmented reality to take off almost as much as Lego does. I think it's a really cool combination of technology and creativity. It may even encourage tablet-hooked younger builders to play with their Lego more. But anyway, a lot of these Lego Hidden Side sets have a possessed state, like on this Newbury High School set. Its possessed state makes the building come alive and turn into a monster, with a giant gaping mouth to chew up the characters. There's a very unique design on some of these minifigures too, like these green-haired monster things. I certainly don't think I've seen anything like this in Lego before. And as Just Too Good pointed out in his review, there actually aren't that many school sets out there. So to get a haunted school is actually quite a treat. So why did these augmented reality sets fail? Well, from the get-go, I could see YouTuber Soundwave Man had to fiddle a lot with his camera to get the completed set to actually integrate with the app. And even when he finally got it to integrate, the app then asked him to do more integration, like changing the color wheel on his set. This caused it to just not work again. Quite a bit of early gameplay involved just slowly and meticulously scanning little bits and pieces onto the set. And even when he finally got some actual gameplay, he was struggling to aim the app. Soundwave Man showed a lot of patience here, respects to you, man. But in the age of TikTok, I just don't imagine most 13-year-olds have this kind of patience. And based on the videos Lego's posted, they're definitely catering to that young teen demographic. But despite this, it's still a very creepy set. And the sheer wonder of seeing your augmented reality set come to life in front of your eyes, well, that's a hard wonder to match. And for number 6 we have Lego Studios, Scary Laboratory. The visuals on this one just jump out at you.
This lovely Halloween-timed Scary Laboratory.
This set's about 20 years old now, but it's based on the 200-year-old book where a lot of horror started. The 1818 novel where Dr. Victor Frankenstein created his monster.
It's alive! It's alive! It's alive!
Even Brickset.com made the common mistake of assuming Frankenstein was the monster, but in the original book, Frankenstein's the doctor's name. Anyway, I put this down as one of the scariest because the setting feels otherworldly and profoundly horror-based. We can see on the set, chains have been added to the monster's brain to try and rise him from the dead. A laser points down at him, and every detail just drips horror. I mean, there's a disembodied head just sitting there in one of the rooms. Bats and skulls pop out of the roof, and there's a good old obligatory ghosts and skeletons. Apparently in this set, the characters are actually meant to be actors, and maybe that's how LEGO tiptoed around the sheer horror element of this one. But take the cameraman away, and you've got yourself a nice atmospheric horror set. It's a common favourite too. In fact, LEGO reviewers like Brick Queen call this their all-time favourite set. The set has some nice creepy extra details too. Like Dr. Frankenstein has a second secret face at the back, and it looks beautifully demented. This was a LEGO Studios set, so they encouraged builders to try some stop motion with them. One way they did this is by giving builders little see-through sticks for the figures, so you could take your hand off the camera and still move characters around. And I love LEGO stop motion, so it was a shame I couldn't find more movies of the set on YouTube. Ah well, still an awesome, scary set. And before we get to number 5, thank you to HelloFresh for sponsoring this video. Using HelloFresh, you're able to skip the ever-annoying grocery self-checkout, as it tells you yet again, item removed from bagging area, and you need to have your bags checked because you're a dirty, rotten thief. Instead, HelloFresh skips this process by delivering straight to your door. I recently discovered I've accidentally been using HelloFresh for years. As it turns out, my mum cooks me HelloFresh recipes whenever I visit. So it turns out a lot of my favorite home-cooked meals are HelloFresh. Finally getting to cook some of these meals for myself has been a real treat. My personal favorite of their dishes is chicken stir-fry. Personally, I like to try and cook at home to be healthier and save some money. And that's just what HelloFresh is all about. You can whip up affordable but restaurant-grade meals right in your own home. I got nice and fresh ingredients too. Apparently all of it travels from the farm to your home in less than 7 days. That's nice, that does taste a lot like my mom's recipe. You can go to HelloFresh.com and use the code PhantomStrider65 for 65% off plus free shipping. That's code PhantomStrider65 for 65% off plus free shipping. And with that said, let's continue the countdown. And at number 5, the LEGO Vampire Crypt set from LEGO Studios. Never thought I'd see a LEGO coffin, but it's actually more common than I realized. In many ways, I think the mid-2000s was the golden era for LEGO horror. A lot of these horror sets from the noughties had a real sense of dread to them. And I think LEGO Studios often captures that fear perfectly. I think the little details add up, like their use of skulls, chains, fire, and coffins. In terms of minifigures, I particularly like this vampire minifigure. A lot of LEGO's more recent vampires have that glint of humanity in their eyes. In fact, a lot of LEGO's more recent monsters look more funny than scary. I mean, this more modern vampire doesn't look scary. He looks like he's gonna give me a hug. But this older vampire, he looks like he'd mess me up. He's got that creepy, empty look in his eye. It kinda makes me want to garlic up my neck. I think the blood red cape and the deep, glowing red eyes really add to the mystique of the figure. Like with Scary Laboratory, there's also the crew film as well. But I think the main attraction to a collector would be the vampire in the crypt. Even the coffin has this eerie imprint of the vampire. It's a shame they made the coffin look so delicious. Its Easter egg color gives me the urge to take a bite out of it. Not that I'm encouraging you to bite your Lego, that will probably hurt your teeth. This little steeple of darkness is a nice touch too. The flame, spider, and skeletal head at the top come together to make something quite foreboding. The LEGO YouTuber Clockriker did a review. What did he say?
This is the first set to contain a vampire minifigure. Looks much better than the one from the collectible minifigure series. I particularly like his cape and face. Yeah! Not
much else to add, just a smaller but creepy horror set. And coming in at number 4, LEGO Lord of the Rings, Shelob Attacks. Arachnophobia is a common fear, and for many, there's nothing creepier than a giant spider. And I think this set delivers on that creep factor. The set shows Frodo being wrapped up at the spider's mercy, ready to be eaten. The minifigure of Frodo is particularly unusual, as it looks like he's petrified or something due to his dead eyes. An interesting design and functionality they added was actually Shelob's web itself. Apparently, it actually dispenses from the spider. Dispensing spider silk. I've never seen that before in a set. It conceals the string, but winds up perfectly into the spool. Another very unnerving look we have on Shelob is the feet. They look jagged at the tips and actually look very sharp. It feels very authentic to a real spider, and actually does give me some discomfort when I see it. I guess the Hobbit boys have to be careful not to be stood on too. I quite like Sam's figure with his sword at the ready. My only complaint is there really isn't much to this set. There's the minifigures, but there really isn't much of a set for them to be standing in, or being eaten in. Though maybe it's meant to complement other sets? I'm not too sure. Oh wait, there's Gollum's kinda sorta cave? Is that a cave? Apparently it's a catapult for launching Gollum. So this is a catapult and a cave. What?
What?
Well, whatever it is, it's not particularly sturdy looking either. A review on Brickset said,
Unfortunately, this mini build is a total waste. The entire build stands on a 2x10 plate, which means it tips over way too easily. The catapult for launching Gollum simply knocks the whole build over.
And looking at the build, I have to agree with this. With a slight wind change, this structure could topple over. I feel like I complain too much about Aragog in the worst rated LEGO set, so I'll keep this simple. This spider looks creepy, like most spiders. Now get me away from it. And for number 3 we have LEGO Monster Fighters Haunted House. There's nothing quite like a ramshackle, decaying, dilapidated house to really capture that sense of foreboding. There's something about seeing a house in disrepair and ruin that just gives me a feeling of something being very wrong. And this haunted house is no exception. It's a 3-story structure, and the detail in this place is just astonishing. Let's start with the gate, which has that gothic and ancient feel to it. It's a separate build, so if you want, you can build a creepy graveyard at the front of the house. At the house, even the front porch is foreboding, with cracked and chipped stairs. The creepy zombie heads on the porch pillars are a nice extra touch too. On the inside, probably what caught my eyes the most was on the 2nd floor. This is apparently a human heart. Holy cow, I never thought I would see this in a LEGO set. A human heart. Thumbs up guys, that is impressively grisly for LEGO. The other levels have some nice gruesome details too, like human bones and skulls scattered on the shelves and floor. The outside of the house stands out from the beginning. These boarded windows have to be one of my favorite details on a horror set. It adds so much character to the structure, it's just, ugh, creepy. Even the minifigures have a lot of detail. Look at this chef here, is that blood on his shirt? This is the only LEGO minifigure I can remember seeing actual blood on. Not that I'm complaining, it's a nice novelty. I mean, we still have the problematic ghost heads, but I'm still hoping I'm the only one to notice this. I noticed a reviewer explain an interesting fact about this set that might explain its inherent creepiness.
This set appears to be modelled after the scary house on the hill, the one in Alfred Hitchcock's Psycho.
And that might explain a lot of why I feel so unnerved seeing this house. It's based on one of the most iconic horror films of all time. I think if Norman Bates was in it instead of these traditional Halloween boogeymen, it would be even scarier. And coming in at number 2, LEGO Monster Fighters Vampire Castle. Not bad, just the box alone of this creates a creepy gothic scene. The castle's spiky roofs and exposed bricks just give off this feeling of horror. The way the roof juts out like spikes gives that hint of nightmare. The castle itself has spikes, traps, and even a dungeon. The minifigures include the obvious obligatory skeleton, but also a nice touch of not just the vampire male, but the vampire bride. But probably the most macabre part to me is a decayed dungeon, where we find a skeleton hanging by his ribcage. The poor fella's suspended by a chain in a pitch-black dungeon. You know, 10 years ago, a very, very young Just Too Good showed off this set.
Displays the set really well right here with some cool details like the little ooze coming out.
This dungeon is almost like a gallows. You can even crank the chain up and down if you want to put the poor skeleton out of his misery. Another neat detail is a spike pit, which lies menacingly at the fall of one of the taller castles. I like that they made it look more like monster teeth than spikes. We also, of course, have the obligatory bats. You can't have a gothic set without bats, apparently. On the tallest part of the tower, just up from the hidden staircase balcony, we've got the Moonstone Tower. And this is where the evil vampire plays his organ. Oh, we got the obligatory bats and the obligatory organ now. All the mandatory requirements for a gothic horror set. It paints such a picture, Dracula playing this organ from the top of this castle. It just completes that old gothic atmosphere we know so well. But this set has a particularly cool feature that stands out.
It glows in the dark. Yay!
Indeed it does, yes. Turn out the lights and it glows. Like a light bright for the demented and clinically insane. However, as Brick Queen states, the glow-in-the-dark feature doesn't last too long.
Although you can see it starts to fade pretty quick.
But all these details add towards a castle that just screams horror. And before we get to number 1, just a couple of quick honourable mentions. Halloween Cat and Mouse. Didn't put this one on the list for some reason. I took it off because it's not scary.
It is scary, I tell you.
What are you talking about? It's the most pitifully cute thing on this list. What is even remotely scary about it?
Why would it be a Halloween set if it's not scary?
Well, I guess that takes us into the psychology of horror and how it's evolved from something scary to something more about fun supernatural themes. But I can feel the retention dropping just starting this conversation, so let's just leave it as an honourable mention. The set's basically a hide-and-seek game between a cat and a mouse in a jack-o'-lantern. Not at all scary.
It is so.
Is not.
Is too.
Liar, liar, pants on fire. Forget it. It's on the list.
Yay!
Lego Phantom Fire Truck. This one was a good suggestion from the community. And if they're referring to this guy, I have to agree. I had to at least mention him. His elongated supernatural features feel like something you'd see in a creepypasta. In fact, this guy looks a lot like the infamous creepypasta character Slender Man. He's a very unique Lego design, like nothing I've ever seen before. Jeffrey the Giraffe. I asked my friend just too good what sets he found creepy, and he immediately mentioned this thing. And I can definitely agree. That's an unpleasant stare, and it's an unintentional creep fest. But I've mentioned this Toys R Us exclusive before in Weirdest Lego Sets, so I decided to leave it off the list. But even if I added it, it's not that scary anyway.
But Jeffrey the Giraffe is super scary.
It is not that scary.
It is too.
Is not. Fine. It's on the scariest list too. Anyway, with those mentioned, on to number 1.
This just in! Disney just announced that they're gonna make a Lego set inspired by the classic Halloween Christmas film, The Nightmare Before Christmas. And, I don't know, it looks a little spoopy to me.
No, Disney's Nightmare Before Christmas is not scary either.
I think it's a little spoopy.
No, it's not that. Fine. The cat, the giraffe, and the Disney movie are all on the scariest Lego list. Are you happy? And I think the number 1 scariest Lego set is Lego Haunted House. Have you ever been to an ancient building that claims to be haunted? While personally I don't believe in ghosts and favour the science approach, I can't deny the unease I feel in many of these places. That pit of dread you get in your stomach, or where the hairs can raise up on the back of your neck. That feeling you get that something really bad happened here. I mean, Scooby-Doo has been capitalizing upon these spooky buildings since 1969. Anyway, the point I'm getting at is that feeling of haunted dread. No other Lego set I can think of gives me that feeling quite like this one. This set drips so much atmosphere, I feel slightly uncomfortable just talking about it. The outside building has such a feeling of intimidation and gloom to it. Even from the outside, the building's colors give that feeling of dread. It's built to look so much like one of those ancient 100-year-old buildings, the kind that's been condemned and forgotten. It has that hideous brownish green paint that real haunted houses seem to love, combined with jet black. The house captures that sense of something being very wrong inside. I think the fact that it's one of the tallest sets Lego's ever made really helps towards that intimidation factor. And on the inside, things feel just as morbid. Directly above you as you walk in, hangs a chained, upside-down skeleton, perhaps the last unfortunate explorer to the shrine of evil behind him. Complete with skull candelabras and a red snake for some reason. Never seen a red snake in Australia before. It's the brownies you want to look out for, mate. Anyway, not far away, we have a preserved skull in a vial. It's this sort of thing that gives me the feeling that whoever originally lived here did some crazily messed up stuff. When combined, his black tendrils, blood red base, and skull head look almost demonic. But below him, we come to realize that in-universe this is meant to be a haunted attraction. On realizing this, I was actually a little disappointed, but I do wonder if this sort of thing's done just so LEGO can show off chambers of preserved heads and chained up skeletons without having to worry about being inappropriate for children. On the plus side, the house being an attraction does mean we get the awesome drop tower. We can see in Brick Vault's video that the tower can be operated with cranks that rise and then fall down. This old-style lift is located in the building's clock tower. Oh, and I've got to mention about these ghosts. They're some of my favorite LEGO ghosts because they're more what I picture when I imagine a ghost. This isn't your usual Monster Mash boogeyman kind of ghost. It more reminds me of the kind of ghosts you'll see standing in the window of the 100-year-old condemned building down the street. And like any good haunted mansion, it has an organ. See, this is why we don't have organ pop bands. They're primarily used in places where something very wrong is happening. Another nice detail is the painting. It may look harmless, but in the dark, you can see red flashes of a mummified skeleton pharaoh. At 3,231 pieces, this set's definitely in the creator expert line, so it's mainly aimed at adults or very patient teenagers. So if you're a builder, just know what you're getting into. I believe true horror is about psychology and that feeling of something not being right. And when just seeing a LEGO set can evoke memories of a place that made the hairs stand on my head, I know the creators have done a fantastic job with this LEGO set. And on such a clearly deep, nuanced subject like LEGO horror, well, clearly we need a thoughtful, detailed conclusion. So I brought Nin in to explain.
And that's the way it is.
Oh, so artistic and thoughtfully explained. And as always, thanks for watching, and hopefully I might see you next time.